Alrighty, chat. We should be live. I'm gonna pull up stream chat here just to make sure that we are actually live. But we're gonna be here for a period of live forecast discussioning. Because we have a pretty dangerous storm system on our hands that we need to talk about here. So we're gonna get started in just a second. We're gonna wait a moment or two for some people to join in, but we'll get things rocking and rolling here in just a moment. So welcome into the stream, everyone. Hope you guys are having a great day. What's up, my Cleta Gwyn? Hope you guys are doing awesome out there. Again, we have a pretty concerning storm we have to talk about. Pretty interesting trends from the models here. A lot to figure out. A lot of questions that need to be answered. Hi from North Carolina. Wow, okay, so that's going to be one of the states that we are going to really have to focus in on, because this storm is posing likely the biggest threat towards the Carolinas, so both South Carolina and North Carolina. We aren't really seeing exactly one state seeing, a bigger chance for seeing worse impacts. It's kind of 50-50 right now, and we're still pretty far away from being able to tell exactly how strong and, where the worst of the impacts are going to be. Excuse me. Alright, but we're going to get started here by taking a look at the current National Hurricane Center forecast homepage. What's up, Sanja? And so we have two things going on right now. As of the latest 7:48 update, which we should be getting an update, I think, in an hour from now, maybe. I think it updates every 3 hours at National Hurricane Center. But as of right now, we have Hurricane Humberto, or Humberto, however you want to say it, as of 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. This was at 115 miles per hour. Since then, I believe it has strengthened to a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of over 130 miles per hour. So a very strong system here. Alright, Humberto is going to make its way out. Humberto, and okay, I think we're back. Sorry about that. I don't know why, but OBS did. Something is not right here. Okay, let's see what's going on. Alright, I think we're back. I apologize for the inconvenience. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties here, so bear with me while we go through this. But basically what I'm trying to say is that if we do see the timing line up perfectly, we could actually see potential Tropical Cyclone 9 get pulled away from the East Coast into Humberto's circulation, and therefore we don't see major impacts towards the East Coast. Now, very rough seas and even some, outer bands cannot be ruled out, and that is, of course, the best case scenario. Now, that is what looks to be the most unlikely scenario at this time. Again, it's very early. Hey, what's up, Freddy? Good to see you, man. Thank you for tuning in. But again, we still definitely cannot rule out the storm getting pushed out to sea. And so we're going to be going over that here in just a second. But if we look at the current satellite for potential Tropical Cyclone 9, you can see some very healthy convection occurring on the center of your screen here. You can see those dark shades of black, gray, and even some shades of pink. Alright, that's a good sign of thunderstorm activity and shower activity starting to pop up within the center of circulation. So it's still very disorganized, but the fact that we are still seeing persistent shower and thunderstorm activity means that we are getting somewhere with the development of um, of potential tropical cyclone 9. So this will eventually become tropical storm and likely hurricane Imelda as it moves its way away from land, if you want to put it that way. But it will make its way through the Bahamas, moving very, very slowly, so that may limit strengthening, and that's what the models have pointed at, is that we will likely see a pretty slow start to that intensification phase, but as it moves into the southwest Atlantic, kind of hugging the southeast coastline, that's when we're going to start to see it intensify. So we'll start out here with the GFS. This is the 18Z GFS. We're going to switch things over to the eastern United States. And so if we look here, you can see that PTC 9 is currently moving up through the bottom part of your screen. This is as we're getting to 2 a.m. Monday. So just about 60 hours from now, we see the storm continue to move north, and eventually it makes its way into really just the outer coastline of the Carolinas here, and it almost stalls out. It slows down completely, and it pretty much just puts on the brakes here at the very last second. Again, this is a pretty strong system at this point. If we have a 979 millibar tropical cyclone, we're assuming that that's likely a Category 1 hurricane, at least low to mid-end, or intensity, I should say, if you will. But the storm continues to kind of just sit off the coastline, and it's the center of circulation stays off the coastline for really all of Tuesday morning and afternoon. So that's kind of a scare for all of our communities out here in the coastal Carolinas, but you're still going to get those outer bands in this kind of scenario, and those outer bands could really produce tornadoes, and the reason why is because you are going to get a lot of dry air that's going to be kind of pulling into and wrapping into the outer core of Imelda. So when you get a lot of dry air to kind of, shear off part of the storm, that's going to create a lot of, wind shear, and that's going to be favorable for, obviously, tornadoes within those outer bands. So even if you don't see the center of circulation pass over the coastline, you're still going to have the potential to see tornadic outer bands there, which is going to be a huge problem. And I think this is one of the better setups there for tornadoes. We've seen this a lot, especially during last year. We had plenty of prime examples of, hurricanes producing tornado outbreaks. I mean, we had, obviously, Hurricane Milton with a historic tornado outbreak across the, east coast of Florida. I will never forget that. Obviously, that day was insane. But this would still bring very, very significant impacts, as well as storm surge and, obviously, very, very heavy rain. So just because the storm misses a direct landfall does not mean it's going to just, miss the impacts. What's up, Sandra Ryan, Elizabeth Lau? What's up, Sam, Storm Chaser TV? Imagine if the storm were to reach Category 5, hypothetically. That would be pretty insane. I'm very glad that that's not happening, but again, we really just need to be thankful that we are likely going to miss the worst case scenario, because, again, the models did start out with this storm being very, very strong. So it looks like the storm intensity overall is going to be a little bit less, but it's the rainfall that, can't mention this enough, the rainfall is going to be the most dangerous part of the storm. Alright, so I'm going to type something in chat really quick. What's up, Andy? Hope you're having a great day. Yeah. Alright. Give me 1 second, everybody. Just getting this final message put up here. What's up, Andy and everyone else in here? It's been a slow season. We are not seeing a ton load of storms in the Caribbean region. It's definitely been a very, very below average season for sure. We just saw a lot of unfavorable wind patterns, a lot of dry air from the Sahara, and a lot of wind shear that really just cut off all of the Atlantic's moisture, or whatever you want to call it. And just the ability to see extensive tropical cyclone development. So that's why we've seen just such a down year. It's really just not been anything crazy. So we're very blessed to have that, because again, in those years where we do actually have favorable upper air, wind patterns and stuff like that during the year, a lot of destruction can happen, and that's exactly what we saw during 2024. So, again, it's just something that we really need to be thankful for. But even then, we still are having to deal with stuff like this. Okay, let me pin that message, and we should be good to go. Alright. So, again, that was the GFS. And another thing to note, kind of going back to what I was mentioning earlier in the live stream, is that with the presence of Hurricane Humberto, it will attract potential Tropical Cyclone 9 to the point where it will actually get pretty close to getting engulfed in the center of circulation. And eventually, we do actually see, at this point, Hurricane Imelda curve way out to sea. So the GFS ultimately misses a direct landfall, but still brings significant impacts to the Carolina coastline with hours of very heavy rainfall, but also likely tornadoes in that scenario. Now we move things over to the European model. All right, this is the 18Z Euro. I don't even think I looked at this yet, but the Euro shows a very similar scenario, a little bit less strengthening overall here off the bat, and the storm also does slow down at the very last second. We'll go into the southeast for a closer look. So the Euro initializing this at around 985 millibars, and it stalls out. It does not move for a solid 12 to 24 hours here. It just sits off the southeast coastline, and basically we see the exact same scenario as what the GFS showed, and this would be for Tuesday. So Monday night into Tuesday, we have a very, very strong high-end tropical storm, low-end Category 1 hurricane, and it continues to strengthen as it just sits off the coast. It's at 978 millibars, so at this point we can see clearly that this is a Category 1 hurricane. And it finally does decide to pull away from the coastline. But again, you still see lots of rain bands lash the coastline. And once again, that does bring into concern a possible tornado threat. So storm chasers like Freddie, obviously, who was in the stream, and everyone else that's going down there, they might not turn back just because the storm might not make a direct landfall. They might stay there because even though you're not going to get the core of the storm move over land, just because that's not happening does not mean you could have, or that does not mean that you can't have other impacts like tornadoes. And so if we do see those outer bands still make their way onto land, that's something that we really need to watch out for. So the GFS and the European model are on board on pretty similar scenarios. The GFS is a tad bit stronger right off the bat, but the European catches up with the strengthening as the storm sits off the coastline. And really, they both bring this up to about a low-end Category 1 hurricane as far as intensity goes. So yeah, but we now can look at the HWRF, which is really the main hurricane model that we look at when we track these things. And so what the HWRF shows is much more intense strengthening here right off the bat. We're already getting into Monday morning here. into Monday afternoon, and we already have a 985 millibar, likely likely a high-end tropical storm, low-end Category 1 hurricane, and it continues to push north, and it does hug the coastline for quite some time. So if we do see that happen, where maybe this is a little bit overdone on the strengthening, and we see kind of the time for Imelda to stay over water get cut off as this hugs the coastline, that could also limit the overall strengthening and intensity of the hurricane. But it continues to move north, and it does still drop that low pressure center to 978 millibars just before landfall. So at this point, we are getting into Tuesday morning. So you're waking up Tuesday morning to a very, very organized Category 1 hurricane just off the coastline. You're already getting these outer bands. I mean, look at these outer bands just absolutely lashing the coastline. These are going to be producing water spouts and tornadoes all morning and all day long. Let me get my pen pulled up here so I can draw on my screen and kind of point out things to you guys a little bit more clear here. But again, if this does play out where we do see the storm get close enough to land to the point where those outer bands impact the coastline, we could be talking about a very significant tornado event. But you see these areas of pink, purple, and dark red. These are the areas where we could have embedded areas of spin-up rotation. So this is where a lot can happen. And obviously that's just getting into the beginning of the event. So in this scenario, if this timing were to be exact, it would be right around 11 a.m. on Tuesday. So that's not going to be exact. That's obviously going to be changed. Still have a lot to figure out. We don't even know for sure if this storm is going to make its way on land. And we do see a very similar track show up on the HWRF. So this was the one model that was not taking the bait and was not kind of falling into the other trend like the European model and the GFS. But now in the 18Z, it does. And we once again do not see that center of circulation make its way on land, and instead it begins to get dragged out to sea. But we cannot let our guard down in the slightest, because just because it's, again, not making its way fully on land does not mean you're going to see these outer bands struggle to make it on land as well. And so you're obviously going to still get many tornadoes likely in this scenario across the Carolinas, but also some very heavy rain. So it looks more likely now, at least the chance for a less direct impact is actually going up here. So that can bring us to our next segment of the live stream. Let's take a look now at the ensembles. So in other words, or more well known as the spaghetti models here. I know a lot of people like to call them that. But this is basically just going to show us where all of the ensemble members are pinpointing the storm to go. And let's see. If you look at the full run here of the latest GFS ensemble, you can see a lot of the members now do actually take that more eastern option there, where the storm again does obviously stall out, but eventually a lot of these members do show a recurve at the last second, and the storm actually does not make landfall. So the likelihood of that happening is definitely becoming, I guess the chances of that happening are definitely higher, but you can see still a lot of members actually taking this into the southeast coastline. So again, we cannot completely rule out the chance for direct impact. I will say though that the chances for a recurve, they are definitely going up. Alright, so there's going to be a windshield wiper effect throughout the next couple of days, and we're really just going to have to just watch and see as the models kind of continue to lock in on the exact timing and location of the system. We really have to pay attention to exactly where this is going to go, because if it does actually just sit offshore, then we're going to have to focus in on more of a tornado threat. But if it does make its way completely onto land, obviously the flooding threat is going to be much more significant. So that is the GFS ensemble. Now we switch things over to the European ensemble, and it's much different. The European ensemble is much more collective, much more together, and you really don't see any members at all taking this outside of the southeast coastline. So really every member that shows up here does take this into the Carolinas. Now a couple of them do take this a little bit farther north, but a lot of them, most of them take this into South Carolina for the most part. So that's why we still can't ignore the chance for a direct impact or landfall, I should say. What category is Humberto? Humberto is, I believe, a Category 4 hurricane, and does have a shot at going Category 5 later tonight into tomorrow. Excuse me. What will happen if it does not turn? Well, if it does not turn and the timing for Humberto to kind of drag the storm out to sea, what would happen is we likely see the storm go into, again, the Carolina coastline, bring a much more significant flooding threat, and obviously still that tornado threat not really changing. So I think the most confidence we have as far as a threat is concerned is definitely the tornado threat, because we know the storm's going to get very close to the Carolinas. So even if it doesn't make landfall, it's still going to bring those outer bands to land. And of course, if it does make landfall, we're guaranteed to see that. So a lot is going to be happening here, no matter what happens with where the storm goes. But there definitely are a lot of different outcomes and possibilities. So we go back now to our official hurricane forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center, and we can look at this for reference. So this was the first forecast cone that they issued for future Imelda. They named it Potential Tropical Cyclone 9. They do this whenever we have such high confidence in a storm that it's going to form, that, you know, they feel the need to get out their first forecast, which I think was very necessary for this event, because a lot of people were, you know, kind of waiting pretty impatiently to see the National Hurricane Center's thoughts on this storm. But what they're saying is that the storm will obviously continue to move north through the Bahamas, where we do actually have tropical storm warnings in effect. So that's going to be right around 2 a.m. Sunday when the storm does officially hit tropical storm status. That's when we will see this storm get a name. And then it will continue to move north, where the northern islands here have tropical storm watches that will likely get upgraded to warnings sooner than later. And then it does eventually actually hit Category 1 status as of 2 p.m. Monday. So Monday afternoon, we see Category 1 status reach, and then you can see it slows down dramatically. It takes a full 24 hours to get just a couple of miles. What in the world? I don't know if you guys heard that. There's some cricket downstairs or something. But anyways, it takes 24 hours just to move this far. So it completely stalls out, and we do not see a landfall point here on the National Hurricane Center forecast cone. Planning on being busy on Paige's stream, Sanja, at least Monday and early Tuesday, it looks like. All right. Hey, what's up, Davis? Good to see you, man. Thank you, Mr. Storm. I have to call it a night. See you all next live. Thank you so much for tuning in. My Cleta. I apologize for butchering your name. Please forgive me for that mistake there. So yeah, that is the official National Hurricane Center forecast cone. And look at this new satellite coming in, showing a much more healthy looking tropical system. That's your center of circulation. So I would say we are officially beginning to see signs of organization there. Okay, so that is going to be the first start and the jump start there in development. What if it does not stall? If it does not stall, then it will pretty much just go right into the Carolinas, or it will get taken out to sea. But I think it's pretty likely that we will see the storm stall. So I think we can pretty much rule out the chance of the storm not stalling. So yeah. So now that we've kind of looked at all of the possible scenarios for where the storm's going to go, I do want to take a look now at the Weather Prediction Center's total precip forecast here. So this is out 168 hours, so not the full timeline of this storm. Trying to call you on, wait until after stream. I can help hop you on here. Let's bring up Davis. Why not? Oof. Golly. Alright. Hold on. Let me know, Dave, if you want to call. But basically, what we see here for the... Okay, there we go. Hello?
Sorry, I was on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, no, you're all good. Just so you guys know, this is Davis's weather on the call. So he's going to be helping us out with today's stream. But basically what we see here from the Weather Prediction Center, again, this is their 7-day precipitation outlook, so this goes out for most of the timeline here of Imelda. You can see they are calling for quite a few inches of rainfall across the Carolina coastline, where we see a storm max of around 8 inches here, really on the southern coastline of North Carolina. So that would lead to very, very significant impacts with flooding concerns and obviously very dangerous coastal impacts there. But you can see also a very wide signal here for at least 2 inches of rain, all the way from really Delmarva down into portions of Georgia there. So again, that is a pretty impressive signature and signal there for excessive rainfall. But Davis, what are your thoughts on what we're seeing here from the Weather Prediction Center?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because this morning we were at a point where we had obviously Hurricane Hurricane Humberto, and we had a 90-90, red lemon, as they like to call it, out in the Atlantic. And then, through the afternoon hours, we got that forecasted coming from the NHC. Now we've got GFS from saying, 20, 25 inches of rain and all these ridiculous numbers out in the Carolinas. And, I mean, it would be quite an interesting and devastating event if that were to happen, on any given day. But the fact that it is almost exactly 1 year after Hurricane Helene devastated these areas is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's never anything that you want to see. But one thing I do want to note is that the European model was the most aggressive model as far as rainfall totals were concerned. So the 12Z European model, I believe, had a spot of like 22 inches of rain, if I am not wrong, across portions of southern North Carolina. Yeah, you can see here, I mean, look at these brown shades. This is maxing out the scale on pivotal weather. So the European model was going for nearly 22 inches of rain in Wilmington, North Carolina. Again, that is very specific when we're talking about over 200 hours out. But you may be thinking, well, if that's so far out, that's adding a bunch of other storms. Well, this storm's going to be sticking around for a while. Again, it's going to be stalling out for potentially a couple of days. And as it kind of dries out, if we do see it make a full landfall on the Carolinas, we will likely see the storm kind of dry out and spin around across the southeastern United States for quite a while. So, again, in the scenario that we see a direct impact, we could be talking about extensive rainfall totals where we see days of almost never ending rainfall. And in that scenario, which is, in my opinion, the worst case scenario, obviously, we see over a foot of rainfall for pretty widespread areas. And in that case, we would likely see record breaking flooding, rainfall, and just a very, very ugly scene. So I am not here to spread, misinformation. So I'm not going to, say that this is certainly going to happen. So please do not tell your brother's cat's daughter's son that we are going to be talking about, 22 inches of rain in Wilmington, North Carolina, because there is a pretty high chance that we could see a pretty different scenario play out. And that's exactly what we see here on the 18Z European model. Again, this is the same model that just showed 22 inches of rain from Wilmington, North Carolina. On this run, it shows 9.4 inches. So I believe the 18Z does only go 144 hours out, but you can even compare this to the 12Z, and I'm sure that it's a lot less. So if you look at the 12Z for about 144 hours out, you can see it had 16 inches for Wilmington. So that's still a very, very big difference there. And again, that's all due to the fact that the latest, operational model runs do have the storm staying offshore, but still bring those outer bands and really a part of the outer core into the Carolinas. So, Davis, what are your thoughts on this latest model trend and just, what we could see in terms of official rainfall totals?
Yeah, I do definitely think that it is a concerning trend to see such a huge change between run to run. It means that it's highly likely that we're going to see several more shifts like that over the next couple of days before the system actually makes any sort of U.S. impacts. I would not be shocked to see some, extreme rainfall event somewhere along the southeast coastline. But again, as you mentioned several times, we're forecasting way too far out to say, oh, if you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, you're going to get 7.8 inches of rain. We can't quite do that just yet. So, really, what you should take away from this is that everybody along the southeast coast, pretty much anywhere from southern Florida back up into areas like southern Delmarva, you need to be prepared and you need to be ready for a worst case scenario, because even if that worst case scenario doesn't end up happening, you're going to be, it's better to be prepared and have nothing happen than to not be prepared and have a worst case scenario. So, again, just stay safe out there. Again, there's a lot that we don't know about Imelda yet, but it looks like this could definitely be one of the more impactful systems that we've seen this year.
I think that is very, very well stated, very well said. Um, so again, we likely will not see a complete Fujiwara effect going back to the storm being attracted to Humberto's circulation, because the reason why we could see that recurve at the last second, and the whole reason why really this is stalling, is because the timing is perfect. I mean, it's literally lined up perfectly for Humberto to pass by just to the east of Imelda. So you can see here again, these two storms are perfectly placed right next to each other, and so this is going to be like a huge force field of two magnets kind of coming together. You pull a magnet or two magnets, I should say, apart from each other, you get that really strong force in the middle. That is exactly what's happening here. So these two storms are trying to kind of come together, and if we do see somewhat of a attraction kind of play out, that could pull Imelda farther out to sea. And I think that's why the operational runs and even the hurricane models have actually trended towards a miss or a technical miss here from Imelda to the southeast coastline. But again, I really want to make myself clear that that does not mean we are going to escape a tornado threat, because those outer bands will still latch the coastline with obviously a lot of that drier intrusion coming in, wrapping itself into the backside of the hurricane. That will cause a lot and create a lot of wind shear. And when you put a lot of wind shear with outer bands of tropical systems, you get tornadoes. So I really do think this is going to be one of the more prime tornado producing storms. Again, if we do see more of a direct impact. So, Davis, what are you thinking about all this, model trending and obviously what effects it could have on the placement of the storm and the impacts that it brings?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, obviously the fact that we have another system less than, 200 miles away, that is obviously going to make a huge difference in how this system tracks. I don't necessarily see this being any sort of definite or definitive landfall quite yet in the United States, but you have to remember, with a system this large, you don't need a direct landfall to see rainfall accumulate across these areas. Even if we don't see a landfall, even if the hurricane stays 100 miles away from land, we could still end up seeing significant rainfall totals again, pretty much everywhere across the southeastern coast or wherever this eventually ends up tracking. So we'll continue to watch it, but I still think that it is something that is a little bit too far out to give too many specifics on. But yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just a matter of time. We're going to have to just obviously continue to watch. And obviously, there's a lot of things that come into play with Humberto as well. Again, if we do see Humberto take more western option here towards the east coast and towards Imelda, we will likely see a stronger attraction bring Imelda a little bit farther east, or at least causing it to slow down quite considerably. But because we have all of this high pressure region, I do think that there is a chance that if it holds long enough, again, it will keep Humberto pretty west, I should say, of Bermuda, and again closer to Imelda. But even when we're talking about just 120 hours out, with such disagreement and late model trends and shifts with a system like this, you still cannot get into specifics quite yet because there are many different scenarios that could play out, and I mean completely different scenarios because we could be talking about a record-breaking and potentially even catastrophic flooding threat with a direct impact. But again, if we do see just a little bit of a tweak in the timing and placement of these two systems, we could have a much more different scenario where we see, yeah, lots of rainfall, but we escape a direct impact. So, I mean, there's a lot to be figured out here, but yeah, that's the latest. So yeah, I mean, we'll really just continue to watch for again more model trends. The European model is pretty similar. It does have Humberto taking a little bit of a more eastern option, which again does kind of result in Imelda dropping more rainfall over the Carolinas, but still avoiding a direct impact. So it's gonna be close. That's all we can really say right now. But I mean, what are your thoughts on all of this? With the placement of Humberto Davis.
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously, it is not something that we typically see here. I mean, I can't think of the last time that we've had two hurricanes this close together, this close to the United States, anyways. Again, there are quite a few different things that could happen. I could actually end up seeing this system become less impactful than it could have been originally since Humberto's this close. Similar to how we see supercells steal strength from each other if they get too close together, that could definitely happen in a similar manner here. I mean, it is again, it's going to be interesting, and it's just something that we haven't really seen in a long time. And in this part of the world, it's something that's only happened a few times in recorded history. I mean, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that forecasters obviously have not tackled in quite a while, and obviously for me, this is the first time I've ever had to deal with a forecast like this. I don't know about you, Davis, but I mean, this is pretty unique
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
compared to, I mean, usually. You just talk about your classic ridging setup with a trough. Is it going to pick it up and throw it out to sea, or is the ridging going to keep it towards the U.S.? That's what we're kind of, you know, uh, uh, accustomed to talking about with these tropical systems, but this is a very, very different kind of scenario here and just set up with these two hurricanes. So, um, again, two very powerful low pressure systems kind of battling it out, and it really all depends and comes down to the placement and timing of these systems. So we really just gotta, again, continue to watch every single trend and path that these two storms takes. Is Humberto going to move closer to Bermuda and cause less of an impact on Imelda, or is it going to go closer to Imelda and potentially bring it away from the U.S.? Okay, so a lot of things are needed to be figured out. So, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much all we got as of right now. But if anyone has any questions about these two systems, or especially if you're anywhere in our impact zone, which would really be from, again, like Davis said earlier, from Florida all the way to southern Delmarva. If you have any questions about those regions, I strongly encourage you to leave them in the chat below, and I will get right to them and answer them as honestly as possible, because again, we want to make sure that everyone is aware of the ongoing situation. I know that correct me if I'm wrong, Davis, but I think the governor of South Carolina issued a state of emergency, right?
I believe that's correct, at least for a few counties. By the way, not to change the subject, but I didn't realize this. I don't know if you did or not. National Hurricane Center is now forecasting officially for Hurricane Humberto to become a Category 5.
Wow, okay, so the latest cone actually does also um, go out here for Imelda, and so we do actually see officially the National Hurricane Center going with the latest model trend, bring the storm away from the United States. Again, we still do not have a forecast point on U.S. soil, but that kind of uncertainty does include all of or I should say, most of the Carolina coastline, all the way down to Florida. And a lot of people think that, if you're in the forecast cone, I mean, you still could get tropical storm rain bands. Anywhere inside of that forecast cone is where you could see the center of the hurricane pass over. So I really want to make that clear. So you could have Imelda go, anywhere out here or out here. Anywhere inside of this ring is where we have the chance to see Imelda go. But their last forecast point here. What was that?
Sorry, are you talking to me?
Oh, I thought I heard you say something.
No, sorry.
You're good. But the latest forecast point here for Imelda from the National Hurricane Center is that we will have this as a tropical storm, a very high-end tropical storm, by 8 p.m. Wednesday, just sitting off the coast. So, what are your thoughts on the latest forecast cone, Davis?
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty interesting. Again, it's not a dramatic shift from the one that we saw at the last update. Again, the forecast track for Imelda has obviously been updated, but again, I mentioned this earlier. Humberto is now officially forecasted by the National Hurricane Center to be a Category 5 hurricane by 7 p.m. tomorrow night. So, again, if that were to end up happening, that would be historic. Getting two Category 5 hurricane seasons is relatively rare. Obviously, we did it last year, but that was during a very extreme season. So, I mean, it is pretty interesting to see again. We'll watch out for Imelda's potential on impact on United States land. But again, that was a couple of days out here. But again, it does look to be relatively significant. And the main thing to watch out for would be that extreme flash flooding, potentially some storm surge, and we'll just again, it's one of those things we kind of have to figure this out as we go along here.
Again, very well stated from Davis. I mean, he's spitting out facts, guys.
So,
But anyways, again, there is your new forecast cone for Hurricane Humberto, officially expected to hit Category 5 status with sustained winds forecasted to be at 160 miles per hour. So this would be the second Category 5 of the 2025 hurricane season, which I'd say that at this point can be classified as downright weird. I mean, we
oh yeah.
literally had a primed setup, obviously with a Enzo neutral slash weak La Nina, and we saw very little development, but a lot of the storms that we saw turned out to be major hurricanes. So, pretty crazy stuff. But again, anywhere inside of this forecast cone, you guys need to be on high alert here, because obviously, if you do see the center of circulation come this close to the coastline, you are going to see many outer bands lash the coast, places like Florence, Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Savannah, Columbia. You know, in that scenario, all of these areas would need to be on high alert for possible tornadoes. Again, with all of that dry air intrusion, creating all that wind shear and just a very primed environment for embedded tornadoes with those outer bands. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to figure out here over the next couple of days. But anything else, you want to add on, Davis?
Yeah, I mean, again, just stay safe out there. Again, this is a wacky hurricane season, the likes of which we really haven't seen too many times before. 2024 was hyperactive, 2023 was more moderate, 2022 was hyperactive, 2021 was hyperactive, but they all really pale in comparison to this year whenever we're referring to the intricacies of the storms being this intense but not happening until this late in the season. I mean, guys, we are past peak hurricane season. We are past peak hurricane season officially, and we are just now starting to see things wake up. I mean, it feels like it's the middle of August right now, but it's late September. I mean, it is a weird thing to see again. I mean, just now hitting the I name is kind of crazy as well, considering that we are nearly in October. I mean, it is a season that will go down in history as one of the weirdest, if for nothing else. Again, Milda is definitely something to look out for. Those rainfall totals likely end up being the main story. But I think outside of that, I mean, that's about all we can really say with absolute certainty as of right now.
Yeah. Um. So, again, not really sure if I want to end off the live stream here. I guess, there are a couple more things we could touch on, but I mean, I don't know. Another thing I guess we could mention here is the forecast for tropical storm force winds, kind of the wind field here. They have expanded it to now include most of the eastern Florida out all the way towards the Georgia coastline into South Carolina, as well as North Carolina and barely a little bit of Virginia there. So we are now officially expecting to see tropical storm force winds reach the East Coast all the way from southern Florida up towards North Carolina, which is pretty much exactly what, again, Davis said earlier in the live stream. So there is still a lot to figure out, but the earliest arrival time for tropical storm force winds would be after Monday 8 a.m. here for eastern Florida, but this storm is going to be slowing down a lot, so the timing is going to be changing a lot as well. So this is going to be something that we're going to have to obviously take our time with figuring out. What's up, Harry Lim? Hoping not to see severe impacts. But Carolinas this year had Chantal. Yeah, they've definitely been. It seems like they've been targeted because again, we haven't seen too many storms at all. I mean, we're getting to the I name in October, and this is what seems to be the third storm to bring some sort of impacts to the Carolina coastline. Obviously, we had Erin, which brought huge waves. We saw Chantal, which brought heavy rain and gusty winds, and then now we're seeing, Imelda, which could end up being the most significant impacting system of the season. So yeah. Hey, what's up, Pete? How you doing? What's up, Sam? So, I mean, anything you want to add on there, Davis, with the forecast cone from Melda?
Yeah, I mean, there's again not much to say that hasn't already been stated, but I definitely think that we need to be making sure that we are watching this very closely because it is the time of year where these systems can do some really wacky things that we were never expecting them to. It's not impossible to see this, become a major hurricane. Now, again, that is a worst case scenario, and there's not a lot of science to back that up, but I mean, it is not impossible. Again, were we expecting, Humberto to have a Category 5 track by this morning? Not really. I mean, it is. I don't want to say anything is possible because we do know some of the bare limits for this system, but it is a much more interesting thing to watch than I think a lot of people think. There's still a lot of time for things to change. Again, we are still over a week away from any sort of major United States landfall if that ends up happening. But again, we're still, at most, or at least rather, we're still at least a couple of days away from any United States major impacts here. So again, we'll continue to watch it over the next several days, but I am liking this new cone from the National Hurricane Center. Again, it agrees with the model guidance that we've been seeing come out over the past couple of hours. And again, I think it's just something to watch here.
For sure. Again, just kind of, uh, what we're coming to here is that we really just need to watch what both Humberto and future Imelda do over the next couple of days. Just really watch closely, but the latest tropical storm force wind speed probabilities here from the National Hurricane Center. So this gives you guys an idea of which areas have the highest chance of receiving tropical storm force winds. They are going for about a 20 to 30% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds for the entire east coast of Florida, all the way up towards Georgia and South Carolina, where the highest chance for tropical storm force winds on U.S. soil is 40 to 50%. So a lot of uncertainty is there and obviously is present in just if we are going to see those tropical storm force winds, and that all comes into account of if we are going to see that direct landfall. That's something that I'm going to be talking about for quite a while, and that's something we're going to be mentioning over the next couple of days, is if this thing is actually going to move, the center of circulation is going to move over land, and we still are yet to figure that out. But the latest rainfall forecast from the National Hurricane Center, or the Weather Prediction Center here, is going for 12 to 16 inches of rain on far eastern Cuba. So that is currently going on right now. But for the Bahamas here, we have 2 spots, or really 3 spots, of isolated 8+ inches of rain expected. So from Crooked Island down towards Acklins and Mayaguana, That's where we could be seeing a zone of 6 to 8 inches, as well as up towards Eleuthera, Cat Island, and Long Island. And then all the way up towards north of Abaco is our third zone where we could be seeing again 6 to 8 inches. And like Perry just mentioned, we do have uh, the chance for significant flooding impacts to the Bahamas, where we do have obviously lots of elevation in areas, especially down towards Cuba. So again, that just creates a much more concerning situation. But I would say, Davis, that in the event of a direct landfall, the biggest threat is going to be flooding, and if we do see the storm fail to make its way officially on land, the biggest threat will be likely tornadoes.
Yeah, I mean, it is, again, even with things like Tropical Storm Chantel, again, a very weak system that hit this area just a couple of months ago. We ended up seeing nearly half a dozen tornadoes. I mean, it is something that we're going to watch, but again, as of right now, it's a little bit too early to place any specific target zones to watch out for a significant tornado threat. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch this evolve.
Yeah, that's for sure. But do you have any points that you think I should go over, or do you think we've pretty much covered everything?
But I think we've covered about everything that we could see.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that we need to talk about. Where, I mean, at this point, even though we're only 100 hours out, with this kind of forecast, just due to the fact that it's so unbelievably hard to just forecast in general, and also that it's a very rare setup. It takes time, so we're gonna have to take our time with this one, and obviously wait it out. But I think that just about does it. So I'm gonna stay on here for another 1 or 2 minutes, just to make sure that everyone has asked all of their questions, if obviously they have any. I do believe though that that is the that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. So again, if you have any final questions for me, feel free to put them in the chat. But otherwise, that pretty much just about does it. So I will likely be making a separate forecast video in. It's getting late, but maybe tonight. If not, certainly tomorrow. And make sure that you go head over to Davis and make sure that you click the subscribe button for him, because he will also be doing frequent live streams and forecast videos for this system. And obviously, we just want to make sure that we can give you guys the quickest and most reliable source and sources for updates. So yeah, pretty much it. So thank you all for coming to watch.